Most people who start investing lose money in their first year. Not because the market crashed, not because they picked bad stocks, because of one mistake. The same mistake, every single time, and nobody warns you before it costs you everything. Let me tell you about Kevin. Kevin is 26, first person in his entire family to open an investment account. His parents worked hard their whole lives. His dad drove trucks, his mom cleaned offices, and neither of them ever had anything left over to invest. They survived. They didn't build. Kevin told himself he was going to be different, so he saved $2,000, opened an account on his phone one Tuesday night after work. Felt proud, felt like he was finally doing something real. His first week, his portfolio went up 4%. He screenshot it, sent it to his friend, checked his phone every hour like it was a text from someone he liked. Then he found the forums, the finance subreddits, the Twitter accounts posting massive gains every morning. And he found a stock that everyone was screaming about, up 40% in 2 weeks, people calling it a generational opportunity. His brain said, if you don't get in right now, you're going to miss it forever. So Kevin bought, put in $800 of his $2,000 at the absolute peak of the hype. 2 weeks later, the stock dropped 34%. He panicked, he sold, locked in the loss, then watched that same stock quietly recover over the next 8 months and go even higher than where he bought it. Kevin didn't lose money because he was stupid. He didn't lose money because the market is rigged. He lost money because nobody ever told him about the one thing that destroys more beginning investors than anything else. Not bad stocks, not bad timing, his own brain. Here's the uncomfortable truth that the finance industry doesn't really want you to sit with. Your brain is genuinely, measurably terrible at investing. Not a little bad, catastrophically bad. And it's not a character flaw, it's biology. For hundreds of thousands of years, the way humans survived was by reacting fast. You see danger, you run immediately. You see everyone else running, you follow without asking questions. You see an opportunity, you grab it before it disappears. Slow, patient, emotionless thinking was a luxury your ancestors couldn't afford. Fast emotional reactions kept them alive. But here's the problem. The stock market doesn't care about your survival instincts. In fact, every single instinct that kept your ancestors alive will destroy your investment account if you let it run unchecked. When the market drops, your brain screams, danger, get out, protect yourself. But selling when the market drops locks in your losses and makes sure you miss the recovery. When a stock is flying and everyone's talking about it, your brain screams, grab it before it's gone. Everyone else is winning. But fear of missing out has driven crowds of investors into hyped stocks at their absolute peak, and most of them took heavy losses when reality caught up weeks later. Your brain is running ancient software inside a modern financial system, and until you understand that, your emotions will keep charging you an invisible tax on every investment decision you make. Let's get specific, because emotional investing doesn't just show up one way. It shows up in 3 very specific tracks, and almost every beginner falls into at least one of them in year 1. Trap 1, FOMO investing. This is Kevin's story, and it's the most common one. Studies show that roughly half of young investors between the ages of 18 and 35 admit to making at least one investment driven purely by fear of missing out. Not because they understood the company, not because the numbers made sense, because everyone else seemed to be winning and they didn't want to be left behind. And here's what makes FOMO investing so brutal. By the time something is exciting enough for everyone to be talking about it, the best opportunity has almost always already passed. The people who made real money on that trade bought 6 months before you saw the first tweet about it. When you arrive at the party, you're not early, you're the exit. Trap 2, panic selling. This one is devastating, and it catches almost every new investor at least once. The market drops, maybe 10%, maybe 20%. Your portfolio, money you worked hard for, is suddenly showing a big red number, and your brain does something completely primal. It says, stop the bleeding, get out now, get back in when it feels safer. So you sell, missing just the 10 single best days in the stock market over a 20-year period would cut your total returns by more than half. More than half. Gone, just from missing 10 days out of thousands. And when do those 10 best days almost always happen? Right after the worst days, during crashes, when the headlines are screaming, when your brain is most convinced it's time to run. The people who panic sold when the pandemic hit in March 2020 locked in massive losses. The people who stayed calm and held, the market fully recovered in less than 6 months and then kept climbing to new all-time highs. Panic selling feels like protection. It is actually one of the most expensive decisions a beginner investor can make. Trap 3. Overconfidence after early wins. This one is sneaky because it doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like skill. You make a few good early trades. Maybe the whole market was going up and you mistook the tide for your talent. Your account is green. You start taking bigger positions. You stop second-guessing yourself. Then the market corrects. And it hits you hard because you took on risks you hadn't earned yet. Studies consistently show that young investors are significantly more likely to overestimate their knowledge on complex financial topics. And the most overconfident investors, the ones who trade the most actively, underperform those who simply buy and hold by as much as 6.5% every single year. Early wins in investing are actually one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a new investor, because they create the illusion of skill in an environment that is partly driven by luck. And when you confuse luck for skill, you bet bigger right before the loss that brings you back to reality. Here's something that genuinely humbles most beginners when they hear it for the first time. The majority of professional fund managers, people with Harvard and Wharton degrees, billion-dollar research teams, decades of experience, and access to information you and I will never see, cannot consistently beat the stock market over the long term. Not most of the time, not even close to most of the time. Over a 20-year period, more than 70% of actively managed funds underperform a simple S&P 500 index fund. Meaning, the boring fund that just buys everything and holds it quietly beats the brilliant professionals with all their research and all their strategy more than 70% of the time. So what does that say about a 26-year-old with a phone app and $2,000 trying to pick winners? The honest answer is, the game most beginners are trying to play is a game that even the pros mostly lose. But here's the thing, there's a different game, a simpler game, a profoundly boring game. Consistently investing around $500 a month into a simple S&P 500 index fund, without touching it, without trying to time it, without panicking, has historically grown into over $1 million in about 30 years. No stock picking, no market timing, no CNBC, no Reddit threads, just consistency and patience. It doesn't make a good story at a dinner party, but it builds real wealth every single time. So let's be specific. Here is exactly what separates beginners who survive year one from the ones who blow up their accounts. First, invest with a written plan, not a feeling. Before you put a single dollar in the market, write down 3 things: why you are investing, how long you plan to leave this money alone, and this is the most important one, exactly what you will do when the market drops 20%, because the market will drop 20% multiple times in your investing lifetime. And the time to decide what you'll do is right now, when you're calm, when you're thinking clearly, not in the middle of a crash when your brain is flooded with panic. If your plan says, I will not sell during a crash, then when the crash comes, you don't make a decision. You already made it. You just follow the plan. Second, automate before your emotions get a vote. Set up an automatic monthly investment. Same amount, same day, same fund, every month without you having to decide in the moment. This removes your emotional brain from the equation completely. You never have to overcome FOMO or panic because you never have to make a live decision under pressure. The system decides. You just stay out of the way. Third, check your portfolio as little as humanly possible. Financial experts consistently recommend checking your investments on a quarterly basis at most. The more likely you are to react emotionally, and emotional reactions are expensive. Your portfolio is not social media. It does not need your daily attention. It needs your patience. Looking at it every hour doesn't make it grow faster. It just gives your emotions more opportunities to cost you money. Fourth, keep your exciting money completely separate. If you want to try individual stocks, fine, but keep it to a strict maximum of 5 to 10% of your total portfolio. Money you can genuinely afford to lose without it damaging your long-term plan. That way you get the excitement, you learn, you scratch that itch, but you never blow up the real wealth you're quietly building on the side. Let's come back to Kevin. In year 2, Kevin made a decision. He stopped trying to be clever. He stopped following the hype accounts. He set up a $300 automatic investment on the first of every month into a simple index fund and deleted the stock forums off his phone. It was boring. Nothing exciting happened. No screenshots to send his friends. But 3 years later, Kevin had $13,000 invested and growing. Built quietly while he was just living his life. Built without a single panic sell, without a single FOMO buy. The market didn't change. Kevin did. And here's what I want you to actually take from this. Investing is not complicated. The math is not complicated. The strategy is not complicated. Buy assets that grow over time. Add to them consistently. Don't sell when you're scared. Don't chase things when you're excited. The reason it's hard has nothing to do with the stock market. It has everything to do with being a human being with a brain that was designed for a world that no longer exists. Knowing that changes everything, because the moment you can see your emotional reaction for what it is, ancient survival software running in the wrong environment, you can choose to override it. The investors who win long-term are not smarter, they are calmer. They have learned to feel the panic and the excitement, and then do nothing. The market rewards patience, it punishes emotion. It always has, it always will. Kevin's parents worked hard their whole lives and had nothing left to invest. Kevin is building what they couldn't, not because he's smarter than them, because he finally learned to get out of his own way. Now the only question left is, will you? Stop letting your emotions make financial decisions your future self has to pay for. If this just changed how you see investing, send it to someone who is about to make their first investment. It might be the most valuable thing you ever send them.